Hey, what's going on, folks? In this video, I'm going to send in my entry for a contest thread. It's Liz's I'm Cute, and if you disagree, you can go suck a titty contest. And boy, what a cruel punishment that is, to make them suck a titty, but oh well. Anyway, she has a variety of questions. I pulled some records to best answer her questions, and some pretty interesting questions, so let's just get started. She wanted to know what is the most beat up looking record in our collection. And I pulled mine, and it is Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced? And you want to see how beat up it is? The whole thing's just falling apart at the seams. Yeah, this record is beyond anyone's hopes because this thing is trash with a capital T. I didn't buy this record. I saved it. I have a buddy who I've known since high school. His name is David. He collected a bunch of records back in the back in the 80s, and around the 90s he got into CDs and he started just chucking his records away. And this was one he was going to throw away. Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced? Which I believe is probably a first pressing. And I was at his house when he was about to throw this in the garbage, and I just kind of said, "Hey, you can't throw that away. That's Hendrix. That's Hendrix, man." And I mean, it's he just didn't take good care of his records. I wouldn't say it's beat up, but obviously he didn't give a shit about the cover because look at that. I think at one time it was taped together. The tape gave out. The record I took home and since joining the VC, tried to give this a cleaning. So this looks a lot better than it originally did. Originally, it looked like David pulled it out of his ass or something like that because this record looked awful. It plays pretty decent. I've since then bought the remaster of it on vinyl, so I don't really need to listen to this shit anymore. The music, of course, is great on it, but I just couldn't bear to see Jimi Hendrix being thrown in the garbage over a fucking CD, so no. So that is the most beat up record in my collection. Another one of her questions is, Liz wanted to know what record reminds us of our childhood. I'm dating myself here, but the one record without a doubt that brings back childhood memories is Earth, Wind & Fire's All in All. This is one of the very first albums I ever got into as a music listener, and it came out in 1977, so I was 7 years old at the time, and my family had this on 8-track. We didn't have it on vinyl, we had it on 8-track. And I remember as a 7-year-old kid, I would go up to our stereo system in our house. I put on those big ass freaking headphones that made me look like Princess Leia with the long ass curly telephone cord, and listen to it on headphones. Listen to the 8-track, and I sat there and I listened to every song from start to finish. It was one of the first albums I got into, and I loved the cover art. I always thought the cover art on this thing was just so cool with the pyramids, the whole Egyptian theme. The back has a kind of a futuristic images with the spaceships taking off from this futuristic looking Egyptian city. It's a really cool album, and the music on here is spectacular. I still listen to it. I eventually bought it on CD, and then joined the VC. I got it on vinyl, real good copy with the poster. And my uncle actually has my family's old 8-track tape of this album. Maybe one of these days I'll go to his house and just take it from him because it was ours to begin with. And I know that old bastard doesn't listen to 8-tracks, so that is definitely a record that reminds me of my childhood. Okay, her next question was, what is our best thrift store finds? And I don't go to thrift stores very often to look for records because there's a few thrift stores around here and they never have anything, and if they do, they're beat up to fuck and I don't want to buy them. But when Salty's Record Attic shut its doors down in Modesto and they donated their inventory to a thrift store here in town, then suddenly I was down with thrift store hunting. So this is 3 of the records that massive dig I did that are my favorite thrift store finds. It's the soundtrack to the movie FM, And I'd never seen this movie before. When I bought the album, I bought the album because Boston's on it, Jimmy Buffett's on it, Doobie Brothers, Eagles, Foreigner, Billy Joel, Linda Ronstadt, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Steely Dan, Bob Seger, Joe Walsh, just to name a few, have songs on the soundtrack. And it's a 2-record set, and if you're into classic rock, this is a really cool album to have. It made me real curious to see the movie. I've never seen the movie before, and I went on Amazon and eBay to see if I could score a DVD copy of FM, and it came on a very limited pressing on a DVD or print, and they finding a copy of FM on DVD is next to impossible. Amazon had it, but they wanted like $80 for it, and I thought, well, I didn't want to pay that much for it. I was hoping to maybe pay $5-10 for it. So I had to do the naughty thing and go on torrent and just download it from a torrent site for free and burn it to a DVD and watched it. The movie's okay. The soundtrack is definitely better than the movie, but I'm really into FM radio. I grew up listening to a lot of FM radio as a kid, so that movie kind of struck a chord with me. Reminded me of my childhood, actually. The next cool thrift store find is Diana. Diana Ross. Never owned this record before. This and the FM album, they were 50 cents a piece. This was 50 cents, so it was FM. And of course I heard a few songs on this, and but never heard the whole album. The whole album is really cool. And it has one of my favorite drummers, Tony Thompson, who was a drummer in the band Chic. He also played drums in the band Power Station and has played with everybody, Jody Watley, Madonna. So he definitely has made the rounds as a drummer. And it was actually the drummer for the Led Zeppelin reunion at Live Aid in 1985. It was Phil Collins totally fucking up every song. And it was also Tony Thompson. It was a 2-drummer gig as Led Zeppelin reunited for Live Aid. Tony Thompson was the only one that knew the songs. Phil Collins kind of knew him and kind of just kind of showed off a little bit during it. And of course Jimmy Page sucked playing guitar that night, playing that out-of-tune guitar. But anyway, I'm getting off subject. This is a great record. Tony Thompson plays drums on it, and it is just a badass album. So it was one of my favorite thrift store finds for 50 cents. And this one definitely tops the list. This is my ultimate favorite thrift store find out of the same dig for 50 cents. We have Genesis Nursery Crime, early 70s prog rock record. Pretty easy to find used. What makes this record valuable, both to me personally and to Genesis fans, is it is a British UK pressing of the record on the very ultra rare Pink Scroll label. Now, to your average person, that doesn't mean shit. But to Genesis fans, Charisma Pink Scroll label is very, very hard to find. It's next to impossible to find. This is the only second Pink Scroll record I have from Genesis, the other one being Foxtrot. And when you find them, it's like finding a golden ticket. It's like, oh shit. And imagine how amazed I was to find it in a thrift store for 50 cents. Now, if I would find this in a serious record shop for serious collectors, and this shop only stocks valuable records, this would be at least $15 to $20. And I got it for 50 cents. It was the steal of the century, and it is mine. So, oh, that was a great find. Great thrift store find for 50 cents. Okay, her last, I think it was her last question. What cool item have we found inside of one of our used albums? I've had a few nice little things inside albums. Some people would put old concert ticket stubs. One person put a fan magazine inside a Led Zeppelin album. That was kind of cool. But this, without a doubt, is the coolest thing I ever found inside one of my used albums. Again, from Genesis. The album is Selling in England. The Lamb Lays Down on Broadway. I almost said Selling in England by the Pound. what's the matter with me today? So Genesis, The Lamb Lays Down on Broadway. A great album. I bought it originally because it was an import. It was a UK import. But the cool thing that some fan slipped inside this record was a Genesis comic book. I could not believe my freaking eyes when I saw this. And I've looked online. This comic book is actually now is quite rare. It was something that came out in the U.S. and Canada during the 80s. And there we are, a Genesis comic book, and it's just in a comic book story that tells the history of the band in a comic book story. And there, let me see if I can find a good centerpiece picture. How they found Phil Collins, how he became their drummer, how the band was formed, how they eventually get Steve Hackett and tour the world as a powerhouse, how Peter Gabriel would later leave the band, Phil Collins would take over as singer, and they would sell more records, actually. It is a cool little comic book. I posted a picture of it in the Genesis chat room forums, and people have told me how rare this comic book is, and it is not very easy to find. It's a very rare item, and some very cool owner slipped it in there in a used copy of The Lamb Lays Down on Broadway, and I am just thrilled. In the back is an advertisement for the next issue, which was based on the band The Runaways. So there's a cool drawing of Joan Jett and Lita Ford. Really nice. So that is, without a doubt, the coolest thing I've ever found inside one of my records. Well, that's it. That's my video response to Liz's contest. So, Liz, hope you like it, and hope that it thoroughly answers your questions. And if I don't win the prize, can you please take a sledgehammer to your Crosley and kill the living fuck out of that goddamn thing? Alright, that's going to do it for me. See you guys next video.